did Jungkook do to make Jimin react so quickly and take action beyond reason? What exactly happened in the studio that night? Click, like, and comment below, because after reading this, you'll have your own opinion. What if one emotional decision in seconds could change the dynamics of a group that has survived for more than a decade? What if one BTS member's spontaneous actions caused an unexpected reaction from the other members, a reaction that not only shook HYB's management, but also made armies around the world question what was really going on behind the camera? In early May 2025, the South Korean entertainment world was shaken up again, not by a comeback or a global collaboration, but by a shocking incident that took place in an enclosed space, recorded by internal CCTV, and known only to a handful of people until finally one small snippet leaked, sparking a furor on the internet. What did Jungkook do to make Jimin act without thinking, and what did they really hide from the public all this time? The story begins on a seemingly ordinary evening in the third-floor studio of the HYB building. That night, BTS members were being scheduled for a limited recording session, not for an official project, but rather an internal session to evaluate new solo and subunit concepts. Jungkook, who arrived first, looked moody from the start. One staffer noted that he didn't talk much, just played guitar and stared at a blank screen with a serious face. But what happens next is not just an artist's personal moment. Jim came 20 minutes later. Unlike usual, he immediately approached Jungkook without greeting the staff. They spoke in a slow but tense tone. One of the insiders, whose identity was kept secret, said that the conversation was initially like an old, unfinished quarrel about someone or something that had been buried for too long. Then, suddenly, Jungkook stood up, opened the file on his personal laptop, and showed Jimin something. A few seconds later, Jimin fell silent. Not a single word came out of his mouth. But what surprised everyone in the room wasn't the file, it was Jimin's actions afterwards. Jimin, with a hard-to-read expression, grabbed his cell phone, exited the room, and in less than 2 minutes, called directly to one of HYB's senior executives. What's in it? An official request to postpone all BTS promotion schedules in the next 2 weeks. Without explaining the specific reasons, it only said that the internal balance of the group is at risk. What's in the file that Jungkook showed you? Why is Jimin known as the emotional balancer of the group, precisely the first to react to extremes? There is speculation that the file contains personal or possible records, the voice recording of someone who had been thought to have been no longer involved. Among the rumors circulating, one thing that is strengthened is that the name mentioned in the tape is one of the former female trainees who used to be close to Jungkook and had personal conflicts with Jimin in the past. In the footage, the woman mentions an incident in 2018, when BTS was on top of the world but harbored internal wounds that almost broke the group apart secretly. Did Jimin feel betrayed because Jungkook kept the tape for so long? Or is it because Jungkook only revealed it now, when BTS's position as an active group is precarious amid a military hiatus and competing solo projects? Shortly after the incident, BTS official Twitter account posted a mysterious post with only an emoji and the phrase, "We need to reset." A lot of fans thought it was a comeback teaser, but they don't know what really happened minutes before the tweet was posted. Jimin reportedly walked away from the HYB building with tears in his eyes, refusing to talk to anyone. And more surprisingly, Jungkook shortly thereafter turned off all notifications on Weverse and closed his personal account for more than 48 hours, something he has never done, even in the worst times of BTS's global scandal. Some insiders said that after the events of that night, HYB called an emergency meeting involving Bang Se-hyuk directly, and a quick decision was taken to stop all public interactions between Jimin and Jungkook during the internal investigation period. In fact, the brand contract that was about to feature both in one campaign was postponed. However, behind the chaos, one small gesture from Jimin made everyone wonder if this was really a conflict or a form of protection. 2 days after the incident, Jimin posted a story on his personal account with an excerpt from the song Promise and an additional line of lyrics unknown to the public. "Even if you forget, I still remember you before all this changed." The sentence sparked new speculation. Did Jimin actually know about the contents of the file long ago, but chose silence in favor of Jungkook? Soon, a photo spread in the closed community of HYB fans. The photo shows a piece of paper purportedly handwritten by Jungkook, left on a piano in the studio room. The message is short, but full of emotional baggage. If I had been honest from the beginning, maybe you wouldn't have to endure injuries that aren't yours. The statement seemed to mark a guilt that had been harbored for too long, and the public began to ask, who really protects whom? In the days that followed, the relationship of the two became a public mystery. They appear in the same location but no longer interact with each other as before. Even while filming the commercial together, the two seemed awkward and only spoke when directed by the crew. In the past, Jimin's presence always calmed Jungkook. But now, their gazes were like two strangers who knew each other too well, to the point of knowing where to stop. 1 week after that, Jimin took a step he'd never done before. He held a private live broadcast. No promotion, no fancy setup, just himself, sat in silence for 15 minutes, then said, "Sometimes, honesty hurts more than silence. But at least it heals." Without naming anyone, the public immediately linked him to the studio incident and that secret file. And within 30 minutes after the live ended, Jungkook Jimin's hashtag trended in 39 countries. Surprisingly, just the next day, Jungkook shows up at the airport to an unspecified location. However, some fans are aware that the airport is a flight route to Jeju, where Jimin is known to have a secret home. Does that mean the two are trying to fix everything personally? Or is this the end of a friendship built since trainee times? Until this article was written, there was no official confirmation on the part of HYB. But the public knows one thing. ***, whatever happened in the studio that night has opened up something that has been closely hidden. And now, the most hanging question is can a broken friendship be saved with just one shocking act? Or is it the final proof that things can't be fixed? One thing's for sure. ARMY won't look at Jimin and Jungkook's relationship the same way again. But who would have thought? A few days after the heated news circulated, there was another speculation that was much more disturbing, that Jimin's shocking actions that night were not a mere spontaneous reaction. An anonymous account known to leak HYB's internal agenda claimed that Jimin had harbored suspicions against Jungkook for more than 3 months. Not because of a professional thing, but because of Jungkook's closeness with someone who has been believed to have played a big role in undermining the trust dynamics between BTS members in the past, and even more astonishing, that person was not the woman who had been thought to be the instigator of the conflict, but someone within HYB's own management circle, a senior staff member who had a personal relationship with Jungkook's family. This then led to a dangerous theory, that the files Jungkook showed Jimin that night were not just about old memories, but contained evidence of the involvement of an internal person who allegedly sabotaged some important decisions in the B era and early days of the solo project. Why did Jungkook keep the file for so long? Why is he showing it now? And why did Jimin call HYB executives directly without mentioning the actual contents of the file? The questions turned into suspicions that were heating up day after day among hardline fans. Some have even begun to question whether all this time the conflicts packaged as artistic differences are just a cover for a much deeper internal fight involving family pressure, money, and power plays between members and the agency. Not a few began to drag Jungkook's mother's name into this conversation. Known to be very protective and active in directing her son's career decisions since his debut, it has been speculated that the mother once directly asked Jimin to stay away from her son because he was too emotional and not focused on image. The news first surfaced in a closed-door community forum 4 years ago, but is now back on the news after a suspicious post emerged from Jimin's old personal account on the old Korean platform that is no longer active. A short sentence, not directly naming names, but too specific to ignore. "You are not family, but act like you have control over me." Is this addressed to Jungkook's mother? Did the old wounds really open up again because of the files Jungkook showed you that night? And what about Taehyung? He has looked very different in the last 2 weeks. No longer active on social media. Even on the birthday of one of the members, he did not make posts as usual. Rumor has it that he was the only member who knew the contents of the file long before Jimin saw it. But he chose silence. The Taehyung's silence reinforces speculation that he sided with Jungkook, even though his heart leans toward Jimin's honesty. Some fans highlighted his increasingly cold reaction to Jimin in a recent behind-the-scenes video. Even in one clip, Taehyung is reluctant to physically touch despite the creative team asking them to hug like they used to. Does this mean that the emotional divide can no longer be contained? Meanwhile, the agency appears to be trying to contain the growing fire. In a closed-door conference attended only by selected Korean media, a HYB spokesperson mentioned that all members are currently going through a reasonable phase of personal reflection in the creative process. But the sentence reinforces the suspicion that whatever happened that night was no small thing, not just a misunderstanding, but the culmination of a crisis that has been buried for years. What devastated ARMY the most was when a photo spread from internal CCTV footage. Jimin, sitting on the studio floor, crying while covering his face with a hoodie, while Jungkook stood behind him, staring blankly toward the exit. No hugs, no attempt at entertaining, no outstretched arms. Two friends who have been known to be the closest turned into two worlds that suffocate each other. And just like adding coals to the fire, another, no less surprising fact appears. According to a former HYB staffer who now speaks through an anonymous account on a fan forum, Jungkook's solo project, which will be released this summer, was originally designed as an emotional duet between him and Jimin. The song, purportedly titled Outgrown, is a co-written open letter about how the two of them grew as friends and artists. But after the incident, all of Jimin's recordings were removed from the project and replaced with foreign female vocals that had never been credited before. Fans feel betrayed. They felt they had been lied to by the narrative that BTS is one family forever. Now the narrative is starting to crack. Cracked by the fact that even in the family, there can be wounds that are too deep to be sewn up again. The madness doesn't stop there. One of the top producers who worked with BTS personally posted a cryptic story on Instagram, writing, "Loyalty dies when secrets are kept too long." The caption was immediately invaded by thousands of ARMY comments who believe that this leads to a conflict between Jungkook and Jimin. 2 days later, Jimin uploaded an old Polaroid photo of the three of them, Jimin, Jungkook, and Taehyung, laughing together in their old dorm in 2016. But instead of a sweet or nostalgic caption, he simply wrote, "If I could go back to that day, I would have voted out of the room before it all started." What this means is that everything that is happening now could have been avoided if anyone was brave enough to tell the truth. Now the K-pop world is split in two, between those who blame Jungkook for withholding information for too long, and those who blame Jimin for excessive emotional drama. But the most tragic thing is not who was at fault. It is how a relationship built on trust and sincerity has now turned into an enigma full of fear and silent destruction. Is this the end of the bond that has always been the emotional heart of BTS? Or is it precisely the beginning of something more honest, more human, albeit imperfect? What is clear, one shocking act has changed everything. And now, our question remains one. A few days after silence fell in the studio and BTS members began to distance themselves from each other, a 13-second clip with no sound suddenly spread across a closed Korean forum. No location information, no time confirmation. But the faces in the video were undeniable. It was Jungkook and a middle-aged man standing very close, their faces tense, as if they were arguing fiercely in a narrow room lit by the yellow light of a wall lamp. Many believe the man was one of HYB's longtime creative directors who is now known as the group's internal advisor. And the most disturbing, in the video, Jungkook appears to hand over a flash drive to the man, a flash drive allegedly containing files that was later shown to Jimin that night. Why was the flash not handed over directly to the agency? Why was it handed over secretly to someone outside of public authority? And even more dangerous, has Jungkook been planning to open something all this time, but waiting for the right time? What's more provocative is not just the contents of that file, but its alleged motivations. Rumors began to grow that Jungkook not only wanted to be honest with Jimin, but instead used the moment to press HYB's internal decision about restructuring the subunit project. In some leaked production documents, Jimin was offered to lead a duet project with another member, while Jungkook remained locked in a solo concept designed differently from his vision. Several insiders said that Jungkook felt controlled and limited by the agency's decision, which was said to be too in favor of Jimin's image in the public eye after the promotion of the album Face. Are their emotional conflicts just the surface of a deeper war of interests? Was Jimin's shocking act actually a form of rejection of Jungkook's supposedly manipulative intentions? Or on the other hand, did Jimin feel betrayed because Jungkook kept the negotiation tool for too long and only brought it up when the situation heated up? A former BTS tour coordinator, who is no longer under contract with HYB, tweeted, "Jimin once told management, 'I can accept betrayal, but not from someone I once hugged when I almost gave up on life.'" The sentence sparked a storm of theories from fans, many believing that Jimin and Jungkook's relationship went deeper than just being group mates. Some call them like brothers, others see them as two people who fill each other's wounds. Not a few even believe there is some kind of emotional bond that goes beyond the definition